And how the heck is that 220 horsepower? What kind of magic has Audi done? Jeez! Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. It's TheSketchMonkey here. Would you just have a look at this beauty? It's a shame that Audi is discontinuing the Audi TT, because to me it's one of the most iconic sports car designs of all time. Just look at the proportions, having that original, the first generation still intact, the spirit of it in this car. It's such a beautiful car, and this one is a 2016, but they haven't really updated it since 2016, since they are discontinuing it. They did a facelift a while back, but overall this is pretty much what the 2023 looks like as well. So what we're gonna do in this video is have a look at this design. This one is the 2-liter turbo, so it has a 2-liter 4-cylinder turbocharged engine, quattro all-wheel drive, of course, 220 horsepower. That's it. But the thing is, it does 0 to 60 in 5.2 seconds, which is crazy to think about, because those numbers in this model of a car with the weight that it has shouldn't be able to do it that fast, but this one definitely does. It's super fun to drive with the dual clutch 6-speed automatic. We're going to talk about that in this video as well, of course. But first of all, let's have a look at what's under the hood. There's something very, very special about this interior, and if you're used to modern cars, you're gonna notice it instantly, but this is, as I said, a 2016, and they haven't really changed a lot in here for 2020, so it basically looks the same, and it is very, very unique. More on that a little later when we talk about this interior. But let's pop the hood. Let me show you what's underneath there. I've said it so many times before, it's not about the power that you have in a car, it's about the entire experience. I just drove the Subaru WRX STI, and that has the same kind of feel. It doesn't have too much power. I mean, 310 horsepower in the Subaru is plenty, but it was also very fun to drive, even though it's not overpowered. So this is what it looks like. Pretty clean, nothing special really to look at under there. So let's close this up and let's go into what's really important here, and that is, of course, this design. Now, as I said, this generation Audi TT, you can still see the spirit of the original. I love what's going on in the front end, because this is a very simplistic design. Just have a look at the hood lines, for example, up here, and how they connect all the way from the almost shoulder line, the greenhouse, going into this hood and then cutting right through the headlight, going into the side of the grille. One continuous line that goes across this entire length, looking fantastic. And in this case, we do have, as you know, huge grills these days. But in this design, I think a big grill in the front end just suits this design overall. One thing that I think also suits it, but is pretty interesting, is just how static these LEDs are, because it's just one single line here, another line in the very far end, and then one line at the bottom to have it almost like a base for those two. Not very dynamic looking, but again, since the rest of the car is so chiseled overall, it suits the design to have pretty static looking front headlights, specifically the daytime run lights. And this red just looks fantastic as well. What's new for 2023 is that you do have a different splitter at the bottom, and these intake, unfortunately, all covered up on this side and on the other side as well. It's just hard plastic. I do wish that we opened this up a little bit. Simple solution would be to just have some openings here, so the fender itself was hollow, have some airflow through there. Would be a simple solution to make those functional. The grille itself is open pretty much all the way down, but as you know, with regulations, we need to have some sort of solid piece in the middle, so some structure point. You can see that that is covered up here, because it's probably a big piece of metal there in the middle, but the rest is all open, looking great. Now moving on to the side view, and this is, Audi TT's very unique angle. You can definitely see that this is a TT by looking at the side profile. There is no other car that looks like this. And what I love about this design, this generation, is that we do have a very crisp and sharp shoulder line from the very corner of the headlight going through this fender, this beefy fender right here. It cuts through, and we have the cut line following this surface. And then it comes into the door, becomes a much more sharp in this area, coming back. And of course, yes, it is connecting to the corner of the taillight. These wheels, also a huge fan of those. I don't want to have them any bigger than these 19s, and we have two 45mm tires all around the car. I do think just simple 5-spoke design like this just looks great on a car like this, because the rest of the car, the rest of the design is so architectural. So I don't want to have too complex wheel design to kind of ruin that architectural feel that we have of this car. And then of course you have the Audi TT roofline with this almost bubble roof looking like it comes out of the greenhouse. And have a look at the proportions between the greenhouse itself, just how low this sits and how beefy and high the rest of the body is. And those are the typical Audi TT proportions, and also with this line that goes up in a very nice curvature and then straight down and doesn't come back up in the rear end. And we also have, as we talked about, these big fenders going around the wheel arches in the front and in the rear, looking fantastic. Now, the first generation Audi TT had some very serious issues with a lift in the rear end. So when you went highway speeds, the rear end tend to lift, and that caused some very nasty accidents. What Audi did is took it back, and they added a spoiler, very small spoiler on the first generation. But as you can see, we don't have a wing here, but we do, because it is folded down right now. So this is electronically adjustable, so you can pop it up from the interior, and that way you will have a wing on this generation, or a spoiler on this generation Audi TT as well. Just have a look at how clean this design is. I want to come back to designs like this. I know I might sound old-fashioned in my videos, but the thing is, if you look at car design today, if you compare car design today with the cars that we had just 10 years ago, they had so much more personality and so much more detail and effort, and specifically in, I would say, in the interiors. The interiors today are just a complete mess, in my opinion, becoming just bland with screens on it. But now we're talking about the exterior, and we do have a nice chamfer going right here, housing the wing, and you also have the same static feel, but they also still reminds me a lot of the first generation TT, these taillights, but still the same LED right here, 2, 3 LEDs that we have in the front end, with a nice chamfer right in the bottom housing the license plate. And look down all the way down, you do have dual tailpipes with a very, very simplistic, again, simple is the key word for the Audi TT, very simple diffuser in the rear. And then you can see this big chamfer that we have up top that is part of this big shoulder chamfer, then it wraps around. You can see how the greenhouse, this is what I'm talking about, it feels like the greenhouse is coming up and raising up from the body of the car because of this line. You can see it clearly now how the sun is hitting the car. It's just a beautiful, stunning looking design. And I also like this race inspired fuel cap that we have to open from the inside. Actually, we could open it from here. Looks very nice and very retro, adds some of that racing culture to this design with that tiny little feature. So we've talked about the exterior design of the beautiful 2016 Audi TT. Now it's time to look at the interior, and boy, I wish we could go back to simple interiors like this that has some effort into actually designing every single little detail, and not just go the lazy way, which is to just put big screens everywhere to remove all the physical buttons and features that we have on cars from this area. But let's have a look at the door panel first of all. We have a nice silver texture on here, simplistic overall. Bang & Olufsen sound system is an additional extra onto this car, and the door handle looking pretty nice. The seats themselves have this diamond stitching in the middle section, which looks fantastic. I do wish that we did have some contrast stitching on this specific car. This is extremely dark even for me in the interior, but it looks very, very cozy. I want to have some accent color in here though, if I could choose that and change something for the trim in here. But what makes this car so special, let's fire this up first of all. Its car interiors today feels lazy, they feel soulless, they feel very clinical when it comes to the layout with all the big screens that we have in the center. But look at this, we don't even have a infotainment screen in this car. And I love this design. I love that we don't have anything here. I mean, it's completely empty. Yes, we do have the controls for the climate control settings in one of the best integrations I have ever seen in a modern car. So up here, let's start up here, soft touch material all around, nice housing. Going down, we do have the Quattro. Of course, Audi being proud of their Quattro system, so I like that they put it in pretty much every model in this area. And then you have this. So these are the AC controls. You have the fan speed right here, with a button in the middle for the AC on and off, and it's just a fantastic design. This is what I want to see. And the way you adjust the vent where you want the air to come out from is just to twist this thing, and that is how you adjust. You can see the fins in there moving around, and that is how you do that. And if you want to turn it off, you have this piece down here at the bottom, and here you have the temperature gauge or the temp dial for the climate control setting. Very simple. I don't care that we don't have dual climate control settings. It's not a big deal. It's a small car. If the passenger complains about that, that's just, you know, their problem. And then you have where you want the air to come out from right here with this tiny little display again, looking so cool. And I wish more cars had this type of integration of an infotainment screen. I don't want the infotainment screen because everything in this car is housed within this beautiful gauge cluster. So if you want to switch the view here, you can see just how customizable this is. You have all these different pieces. You can change those and go back to full screen, and you can also have the map full screen if you have that option on the car itself. And it's hard to believe that this screen actually came out in 2016. It's a fantastic design, and again, something that I wish more cars had even today. Moving further down, you do have the drive modes. Right here you have the traction control on and off, and this is the button to raise and lower the rear spoiler, parking sensors on and off. So let's check the drive modes. You have individual, you have comfort, auto, and dynamic. And the thing is, this is one of these cars where you can definitely feel the difference between, for example, comfort and dynamic. It just becomes a completely different car. And I'm going to keep it in dynamic when we take this for a drive because I want to have it in the sporty setting, obviously. Then you have the start button right here, the volume control, and I forgot to mention we do have two more of these buttons on each side, one over there and one over here, and this is for the heated seats. Again, such a unique and cool design that I absolutely love. You can either twist it like this or press it to adjust the heated seats, and we're definitely not turning on heated seats right now because it is pretty toasty in here. Then you have this for the navigation, popping that up in the center console. So you can see we can make that into full screen as well if we want to, just like that. It looks fantastic. So completely customizable gauge cluster. So all the infotainment screen stuff that you would normally have here is housed within the gauge cluster itself, and I think that's a fantastic solution. This is just to adjust whatever you're in onto the screen, so zoom in and out on the map and so on, and you have the hard buttons for it as well down there. Parking brake down in the middle. You have one single cup holder, which means that this is definitely, it has to be a driver's car since we only have one. And we also forgot to mention this little storage compartment that we have up top, looking great. I also kind of like this silver trim that we have going on in the center console. We have the smallest armrest in the middle, but it does have some storage underneath. And you actually has a second cup holder that you can fold away down here. Now, we quickly talked about these seats, but just have a look at them in all its glory right here, looking fantastic. High quality. You have a nice organic feel to the side design of these chairs. It just feels like a solidly designed chair that people put a lot of effort into designing. There's no sunroof in here, thankfully, because I think that would just ruin the clean surfacing that we have up top on the TT greenhouse. So no sunroof is perfect for me. And last but not least, we have the steering wheel, which has a flat bottom. As you can see, we have the buttons for the display right here, and we have the controls for the voice command and radio on the right spoke. I do like this design of the steering wheel. Looks nice and it's just grippy enough. The cruise control settings are located with this stock, so you can just change it whatever you want using the stock down here. Then you have these pedals. These are something that I would definitely want to changed, because these are just too weak. And they're also plastic. I would like to have them a little bigger, and maybe in metal, something like that, to make it feel a little bit more premium than this. But the gearbox itself is absolutely fantastic in this car. So I'm not gonna jump back in the back seat, because as you can see, it's pretty tight, and behind my driver position, there is no way I'm gonna fit back there, so I'm not even going to try. But the key thing here is that we do have seats back there, which will probably be used as luggage space in most cases. Last but not least, do we have a glove box in the TT? Yes, of course we do. Overall, this interior, I'm gonna have to give Audi praise once more. This is one of my favorite interiors of any modern car, is the Audi TT, for the simple reason, as I said, that we don't have a big TV stuck just randomly onto the dash like we have in pretty much every single new car today. So with that said, we've talked about the gorgeous, stunning, just look how beautiful this car is in the sunshine. We talked about the gorgeous exterior, and we also had a look at the interior. But now, 220 horsepower. Doesn't sound like a lot, but I'm going to show you exactly what it feels like to drive this car. All right, guys, it's time for the fun part, and that is to take this for a drive. And I'm really excited to show you just how crazy these 220 horsepower feels. I also want to show you this. Have a look at that. We have the backup camera in the gauge cluster. Why the heck do we need these big gauge clusters when this is the optimal integration of the technology that we have today? At least in my opinion, just looks beautiful. Just a very driver-oriented interior. So let's go and take this out on the streets, and let me show you what these 220 horsepower, 258 pound-feet of torque, what they actually feel like. Right now we are in auto mode, which makes this a little more civilized and chill, you know, cruise around town. And you also have a different exhaust note in auto. And I'm gonna switch it to dynamic in just a minute. But what a bummer that Audi is discontinuing this beautiful car. I mean, unfortunately, people are not buying these type of cars anymore. People just want boring crossover SUVs that they never gonna take. And, you know, maybe they're gonna gravel road and that's about it. Sports cars are becoming rarer and rarer. And the Audi TT is the last victim in the, you know, butchering of great sports cars throughout the year. So let's put it in dynamic. Individual, let's go down, there we go. And I'm gonna put it in manual mode in a minute as well, because as I said, this gearbox is fantastic. I just don't like the pedals that we have for it, but other than that, it's a great car. And how the heck is that 220 horsepower? What kind of magic has Audi done? Jeez, to make 220 horsepower feel like way closer to 300. I'm not sure what kind of sorcery they were involved in to make it feel like this, but it 100% feels a lot more than 200 horsepower. Alright, so let's put it in to manual mode, and let me show you what this 6-speed gearbox is all about. So it only has six gears, but honestly, I think that is a perfect number for this. Because what it does, it allows you to really rev out each gear, and it doesn't really hinder the driving experience. Even if we were maybe to have a 8-speed or something like that, this still feels absolutely fantastic to drive. And I do believe that the Quattro all-wheel drive has a lot to do with this feeling like shifts are quick too. This feeling like way more than 220 horsepower. Imagine if this had, I want to drive the Audi TT RS now. If this feels this good, I definitely need to get my hands on a TT RS. If you live in Colorado and you do have access to a TT RS, just let me know. I would love to make a video on that one, and definitely feels how that drives. Suspension is not too stiff either, even if I'm in. Yeah, the noise is nice too. I'm not sure if it's pumped in. Suspension, as I said, it's not too stiff. Even if we're in dynamic mode, it feels great. Looks clear, and let's go. Oh yeah. I love when cars come together like this, how cars make you feel, because you know you're sitting in such a beautiful sculpture of a car, and it goes and sounds like this. I don't care that it only has 220 horsepower. It does not matter one bit. The number itself is pretty low on paper, but the way everything just feels in this package is absolutely amazing. And that is the last V8 M3, the E90 convertible up there, looking great. Unfortunately, again, I don't think we're gonna ever see another V8 M3. Maybe, I don't know, with some biofuel systems or something like that. But I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, the next M3 would be all electric, which would be extremely sad. Overall, this 2016 Audi TT with the 2-liter turbo engine is just a great little car, which I'm so surprised by after driving this. The first time I drive this car, and I couldn't be more surprised by how this feels, specifically compared to the first generation Audi TT, which was more of a, even though it had 225 horsepower in its dual exhaust version, single exhaust, 180 horsepower, dual exhaust, Quattro 225 horsepower, that felt more like a way slower, first of all, than this, and also nowhere near as sporty as this, because I do think that that was actually based on the Beetle platform of the time. Huge thanks to Urban Motors again for providing me this Audi TT to review for you guys today. Great guys, I love the cars that they have. They're super nice to work with, and if you're interested in this car or any of this location's inventories, you can see right here, just click the link down below in the description or simply go to urbanmotors.com. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.